Welcome everyone to the Mariners. I'm Brent Robertson.
Nicholas Williams.
Jessica.
And we have Jessica with us tonight also. So glad everybody's tuning in tonight. We're going to continue our journey. And, last week we talked about a lot of things about what took place when Cain didn't want to confess his sin, how God gave him the opportunity and he still would not confess it. As a matter of fact, we see that he was angry, and God said, "Why are you angry?" So tonight we're just going to pick right off where we left off at chapter 4, verse 11. And it says, "And now art thou cursed from the earth, which has opened her mouth to receive thy brother's blood from thy hand. When thou tillest the ground, it shall not henceforth yield until thee for strength. A fugitive and vagabond shalt thou be in the earth. And Cain said unto the Lord, My punishment is greater than I can bear. Before thou hast driven me out on this day from the face of the earth, and from thy face shall I be hid. And I shall be a fugitive and a vagabond in the earth. And it shall come to pass that everyone findeth me shall slay me." So tonight we're going to dig a little bit into this blood and why it is such a big deal. And kind of to kick it off, I want to go to Numbers chapter 35. And I want to give you a little feel about what we're talking about here, because I know this is kind of one of those things where if you don't have the understanding behind it, it gets difficult to understand. And it's going to be in chapter 35, and we're going to start in 29. Now let everybody get there. Numbers 35. So the idea of blood crying out to God from the ground, we're going to see a perfect example of it right here. It says, "So these things shall be for a statute of judgment unto you throughout your generations in all your dwellings. Whoso killeth any person, the murderer shall be put to death by the mouth of the witnesses. But one witness shall not testify any person to cause him to die. Moreover, ye shall take no satisfaction for the life of a murderer, which is guilty of death, but he shall be surely put to death. And ye shall take no satisfaction for him that is fled to the city of his refuge, that he should come again to dwell in the land until the death of the priest. So ye shall not pollute the land wherein you are, for blood it defileth the land." And this is it right here, y'all. "Blood defileth the land, and the land cannot be cleansed of the blood that is shed therein, but by the blood of him that shed it. Defile not therefore the land which ye shall inhabit, wherein I dwell, for I the Lord dwell among the children of Israel."
That's like a perfect explanation.
Yes. So, it says here that the blood of Abel spoke, and it spoke of judgment. And that's kind of what we're going to really be in tonight, is understanding that, we talked about this being the very first murder and the things that really took place with that. But it's more than that. It's the fact that, Cain had an opportunity, because the Bible says that if he would continue to do good and not do good, then God would just let it go. But he also told him that sin is at the door. And he continued in that way, and we see that what happened here is the land was defiled from Abel's blood. And it also says here that, basically whoever shed that blood, the only way the land is cleansed is by that same person that shed that blood gets shed. Yeah, so, yes. So, that in itself, we know that God's righteous. We know that His judgment is a very serious thing. And Cain pretty much knew, as we read these scriptures a while ago, Cain pretty much knew what would become of it. As a matter of fact, there at the end, we read that Cain said unto the Lord, my punishment is greater than I can bear. Behold, thou hast driven me out of this day from the face of the earth, and from the face that I shall be hid, and I shall be a fugitive and vagabond in the earth. And it shall come to pass that everyone findeth me shall slay me. In other words, he was worried that anybody that saw him would know what he's done and was going to kill him. Because he knew that this, as we read in Numbers, this is what God required for a murderer's blood to be shed for the land to be cleansed. So now we have a curse from the earth, and the curse upon Cain was Adam's curse would be amplified in regard to him. Remember it when we talked about it a few weeks ago, how one of the curses that Adam would take from God was that he would have to till the ground. That all those things that his hands would have to get dirty. Nothing is just given to him no more the way it was at the beginning before the sin of man happened. Remember, we talked about a good bit about that and how each one of them received a curse that was different from the next. The devil was put on his belly eating dirt, and the woman, she has the menstrual pains and the birthing pains. And Adam's punishment was probably the greatest because everything was handed to him. He had complete dominion. He gave that up. Not only that, nothing was handed to him no more. If he wanted to eat, he had to grow it. And I think that's really interesting because if bringing forth the food from the earth would be hard for Adam, well, he just said the land is not cleansed no more. Think about that. That means that the land is a desolate wasteland now, just because of that murder. So you can imagine that, it would be impossible. And I think it's interesting because if you remember, what was it that Cain brought God? What was the sacrifice that he brought to God, whereas what Abel brought? Cain brought stuff that he had formed. Yes. So y'all catch this right now. Not only was the curse upon him, but it was up on the ground, what he was used to. He was normally a farmer. That's what he had always done. So now that's been plucked right away from him.
He would have to become a mediator because
absolutely.
Getting vegetables and fruits from the ground. So.
And Cain would basically, he's not going to find no rest. It also, it makes that really clear that he's not going to find no rest. That, basically the earth has turned its face from him. Now, can you imagine having all these things handed to you, took care of, cast out, and not only that, everything that you had been trained to do, that you've done all your life, it's not working anymore.
You just want to die.
Yeah, for real.
So like, okay, so just kill me now.
Absolutely. And so, Cain, with him finding that resting place, he is now a fugitive. And this kind of gets into those questions that people ask, like, where did the people come from? And I don't want to get into that, y'all, because I know that'll be a deep rabbit hole, and we're not going to do that. But we do know that there had to be offspring already taking place that he wouldn't have been afraid otherwise. So, but just imagine that. Everything that you had known in life has just been stripped from you. And the one way you need to take care of yourself, you can't get nothing to grow. It's a desolate wasteland. It's a wilderness.
But that happens to us too. Just think about it. If you're out here gloating about, say you have a business, you're out here gloating about it, you're out here, I make $1 million.